It's the Awake Space with Laurie Rivers. I'm your host, here to help you with some inspiration to get those aspirations out into the world. Well, we've gone back to audio, period. We'll do special videos here once in a while on the Awake Space podcast. But other than that, I'm saving my video for the socials and for classes and, of course, in our Awake Space community. This Mercury retrograde has been one that has been testing the boundaries. And there were a lot of decisions that had to be made both for me personally as well as the podcast and in our Awake Space community. I held a all patron meeting for free as well as our supporting members and talked about some of the changes to help keep our community the deeply connected space that it is. Boy, it was a gratifying conversation. There were some events that caused the well, it was the last straw. There were some things that were very unpleasant, and I want to keep my community safe. So the podcast will always be here out in public, always sponsored by our members. And we're going to give it about 30 days to get people time to transition if they want to be part of the community. But the free membership will be going away. There's just been one too many incidences and comments and messages to me I'd just rather keep us focused on the people who want to actively participate. Now, if you're not a supporting member because it's economic hardship or it's just been hard to fit it in, there will be a number of scholarships, gift memberships as members have offered to sponsor people's memberships. And so keep your eye on the post in the awake space. What a week. And to top it off, because this is my birthday week, guys. To top it off, I was contacted on Facebook by dear, let me catch the name. I won't give the whole name, but frankly, making such an egregious request somewhat deserves a lack of anonymity. That's right, Allison. Allison contacted me about participating in an AI powered astrology report tool. I don't think Allison got the response she wanted. We'll be talking about that here on the podcast. I promised I'd be on my worst behavior. I'll be talking about some of why I am changing things up, going back to what works best, and what is coming up next. And it's all about getting ready for 2027 and beyond, doing what we do best and doing it really well. I'm an experimental person and I've experimented with formats and, all kinds of things here on the podcast in the last 5 years. And so many people, when I surveyed, they didn't need the video. So I was like, okay, let's go back to audio because that's so much easier on me and my eyes. Because in case you didn't know, I am visually impaired and I do a really visual job. So recording on video it's taxing. It takes a lot of energy out of me, and it's a lot of work to get ready. And I'm profoundly blind in one eye, and it makes it putting on makeup just really hard. And it's a whole thing. I don't want to be a whiner on my birthday week because tomorrow, Tuesday, the 21st, I'll be 57. And I feel a lot like that Molly Shannon character. I'm 50. Look at what I can do. And I can still sit crisscross applesauce and I can still high kick. And I don't need to wear Depends just yet. So, Kegels for the win. You're like, "Oh, TMI, Larry, I'm starting my Monday. What are you talking about?" Anyway, and we're gonna talk about Barbault's basket. I'm gonna read from June of 2026. the Awake Space magazine, where I wrote about what's in Barbault's basket because everybody and their mother is trying to be an expert on Barbault's planetary cycles. And I'm not an expert on his work, but I did research to make sure, I was giving accurate information. But, you know, I think he'd be mortified and horrified to see the way people are talking about it out of context or making shit up. So we're going to talk about that on the podcast this week. As always, the What's in the Headlines is a member only benefit of being part of the Awake Space community. And we go live every Sunday for it. People are having a good time. I'm trying to make sure I read them kind of straight out and then we chit chat after. So try to put everything at the top of the video. But I did also talk a little bit about Barbo's basket and what I expect to see happening on Monday morning. So we'll talk about some of these things. I'll talk a little more about what I see in 2027. We've got those recording links out to everybody. If you attended or registered, check your email, check your spam folders because everything went out. If you don't find it at all, please give us a message um, either through the Patreon or through the email that you booked with, and Alicia will get things to you. But I think all but 4 people probably have it. Get your coffee, get your tea, get your matcha, get your Red Bull, get your H2O. And whether we're going to work, laying on the couch, trying not to melt, eating some popsicles or a fudgesicle or out for ice cream, taking a hot girl walk, careful with that, trying to stay warm in the southern hemisphere, or whether we're working out, doing some gardening, we're going to do it together. It feels really good to be back to audio only. This is what I do best. It is kind of stressful for me to do video. It's hard to get it. You've probably noticed my background has been akimbo or, the camera level is off or the lighting will be off or whatever. It's hard because I'm blind. And editing the video is a lot harder. Editing the video is a lot harder. I can edit audio in my sleep because I was a singer years and years ago, and recording audio is, again, what I do best. And this feels so good. This feels so good. Again, there's been so many decisions that I've had to make over the last little while. And some of those was out of abject frustration, like we talked about in the live. And I'm not going to go into that here, but there's been more than one event. That one was just, again, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was like, I'm going to have to do something about this. So there's plenty of time to get ready. You don't have to run now. Keep your eye out for the posts coming out at the Awake Space because we'll have ways for people to apply for scholarships and gift memberships. And we're not trying to shut like people's access down. Again, this podcast is here. I don't take ads, I don't take sponsorships, but video and classes and what have you, that'll all come out on video in the community. Save my eyeballs for that. But I do want my people to be safe. I'm not building a fandom. I don't know. It doesn't resonate with me. I build community. Community is so important. And I've been preaching it for years and years and years, long before I ever had a podcast, long before anybody heard of me on TikTok. I've been preaching the power of community and what it's like to build community. Well, to me, that's the most important thing. And talk about community showing up in that live. And I'll put that live in the show notes so you can check it out and find out what happened and why. And yes, I got emotional because it was quite a disturbing event. And you know me, I don't clutch my pearls easy. Well, I clutched them last week, but that was in jest. But I want to keep everybody as safe as possible. That's really important to me because we do have important discussions. People are growing and finding their confidence, making major life changes, knowing people have their back in there. Because we don't just talk astrology, we do applied astrology. Astrology, the way most people talk about it, is somewhat useless. It's kind of like taking a Myers-Briggs test. It's an identifier, it's a typology, and people can be really, really watch, I'm gonna get hate on that. Oh no. But Myers-Briggs actually has less validity to it than astrology does. For real, look up the history, folks. You'll be like, but I identify with it. Well, it's not that hard to identify with a typology. People want to belong to something. But if you really want to make astrology useful and not use it as a tool to block yourself or limit yourself or be like, oh, well, that's why I'm screwed, then if you take it and apply it, it's one of the most useful tools. That's why there are people who are captains of industry and world leaders and community organizers and scientists who use astrology, and they do. I know because they're my clients. And when you can apply it, you can be the captain of your own ship. I bring that up because one of the worst things I've ever seen invented are astrology reports because they're highly general, but you have to know so many different things to be a good astrologer. You have to have an in depth understanding of consciousness, how energy works, the different ways energy works, both from a physics and Newtonian physics perspective, but from a quantum level, just even having a basic understanding of that is useful. Having a historical and geographical knowledge, whether you studied sociology, anthropology, human behavior, those all help you become a better astrologer because the power of astrology is not in the chart itself, it's in the interpretation. And that's why I specialized in interpretation all those years ago. Well, mostly because my teachers were all like, your superpower is communication. You should specialize in interpretation. And I was like, okay, I like communicating. And so I'm not a fan of computer reports. There's a reason I don't do recorded readings. I've tried a couple times. It's not my favorite. And am I accurate? Yeah. But I really love to do one-on-ones or groups because it's part of being an advisor. It's part of working with people and measuring their progress. I never want to hold it onto anyone well past their growth point. But to watch people start with me in one place and then exceed all of their internal expectations and grow over the years, that is just a heady, heady drug. Watching people grow. And we see that just in the community. People listening to the podcast, people reading the material over and over and over, people watching the hundreds of hours of material available at different levels in the awake space community and getting their ahas and putting it into action. That that is amazing. That's what I love to do. No, I haven't opened my calendar yet. I will, I promise. I've been working on the 2027 planner and the astrology planner. It's looking good. Talk about applied astrology because that's what we've got going on with that. Um, I've written some articles in there. If you're a fan of the magazine, I think you're going to enjoy those. Talking about what the different aspects mean and a different perspective on understanding aspects in both the natal and transits. There's ways to plan things out as next year is all about concentrating. And it doesn't mean you have to hold your focus for extremely long periods of time, but knowing how to redirect yourself back. So even if it's moment by moment is really important in 2027. So that digital planner goes out soon, and then we're going to have a physical version available. That'll come out. And yeah, my friends, this time period has been really interesting. Besides deciding that I wasn't going to do a video podcast anymore because I have some really fun content planned on teaching beginning astrology and talking about more complex astrology subjects in a fun way. Think Bill Nye the Science Guy, except a crazy mad scientist astrologer. In fact, during the photo shoot last week, we got some of those shots ready. So I can't wait to see how they turned out. We had some fun with those. I'm so excited about that. Living by Luna, I'm still working on the website. The book is done. My books are done. I just have to get all the websites built. And they've really changed how you do websites these days over the last 4 or 5 years. And they've made it more complicated than necessary. It used to be a lot easier. But anyway, so I'm working on those, almost done with livingbyluna.com. And then uh, LaurieRivers.com will be done. And I'm so excited about what's coming down the pike. Healing the Money Wound will be done. That'll be done a little later. Got to get LaurieRivers.com done. And you'll be able to find all the different things I offer because I know I bring a lot to the table. And I think Patreon is great as a gateway, but I think to organize all of the many different things I bring for you, all the different tools and the courses and consultations and things like that. Those will be more organized that way. So there's that, but I will get my consults open on wokeastrology.com. That's one of my other websites. And you can still book with Damien, Shelby, and Susie as well. As we go through the summer, it'll be useful. So now that I'm staring at the elephant in the room, which is some screenshots I put up in the Awake Space chat. So this chick named Allison got a hold of me on Facebook. And I'm just going to read the note to you because I got a lot to say to Allison that I didn't say in my reply. But hi, Laurie. I've been following your astrology content and really appreciate your perspective. Thanks, Allison. We're currently working on an AI powered astrology report tool. I'm not going to lie, I saw that, didn't read the rest of the message, and was like, absolutely not. And then I went back and read the rest of the message and had more to say. An AI powered astrology report tool. And we're gathering feedback from experienced astrologers to help us improve it. I'd love to invite you to try a complimentary report and share your honest thoughts. You can generate a free report using code BLAH with the URL. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think it gets right, what may be missing, and whether there are any gaps compared to how a professional astrologer would interpret the same chart. Okay, Allison, you used a word there. It's called professional. So you think giving me access to a free shitty AI tool is compensation for over 30 years of experience. I didn't just read a book or two to get where I'm at. I have literally spent tens of thousands of hours doing what I do. And anybody who works closely with me, they've watched me go down the rabbit hole where I pull out 30 charts, where I go back 80 years, 100 years, 2,500 years. I'm chasing rabbit holes. I've done that on the daily since 1995. Okay. 1995. And you want me to give my expert opinion, A, for free? Are you kidding? Would you ask a lawyer or a doctor? You use the term professional astrologer. You know what professional means? It means we charge. Are you kidding? You want my free labor, woman to woman, my free labor, my knowledge base to train your AI tool? Go, jump in a lake. And honestly, I was thinking worse things than that, but we're trying to keep this PG-13, okay? Any gaps? Here's the gaps. AI cannot come close to a real professional astrologer. And I'm not just talking about people who charge for readings, but real competent, qualified astrologers. AI cannot do the same kind of human synthesis the human brain does. You can calculate math faster, sure, but they cannot synthesize things in the same way. Okay. I'm not reaching out to pitch anything. Not stealing my information out of my head is what you want. I value your expertise. Where's the money on the table if you value my expertise? And it's not just good old Allison that does this. I get people reaching out to me wanting free training. I get people reaching out. It's like somehow because we're women and spirituality adjacent, that people seem to think that a free ride is cool. So there's two ways you can gain expertise. You can put money and study with actual professionals, or you can dedicate yourself and study. So, fine, I know I'm a very polished human being. Okay. Even when I wear a hoodie, I'm polished. I'm educated. But when I was learning astrology, I didn't have extra money to take classes. Okay. I saved up for them. My first teacher adopted me. Okay. I didn't ask them to teach me. I didn't, it was given to me. You say, "See, Laurie, you were privileged." I was. I was. But they were a computer coder who was really cranky and didn't put up with stupid people, and they recognized somebody who they could talk to about stuff, and it was mutual in that respect, okay? I didn't bug them. I didn't pester them. I gave them space, and I took what was offered to me, enough to get the ball rolling, and then I saved for years to take my first official astrology classes with tenured experts. I saved. And don't think I had a good job because I didn't. And I was a single mom. And it was a recession. There have been many recessions. Okay. I'm saying all of this because I worked my ass off to be the astrologer I am today. Hundreds of books, a lot of them not great. Okay. Using my discernment. Not going around looking for wrecks, okay, but just going to used bookstores, finding anything astrology, learning real quick what was good and what was crap. And when I could afford to go to a conference, I went to a conference. When I could afford to take extra workshops, I took extra workshops. When I could afford a world-class astrologer to read my chart, I did. I didn't ask for a discount. I didn't claim hardship. I saved. And I worked. So, do I get offended, especially when women want to pick my brain? Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Because everything I've got when it comes to astrology, I earned. I worked so hard. And I don't gatekeep. I teach so much all the time. My free resources are better than a lot of the paid classes people take. I am generous with my knowledge, but to have someone, and it's been more than Dear Allison, to have someone come and ask me to vet their product for free, give my data, my information, my years of experience, compare and contrast how their report stands up to how a professional astrologer does it, that is hugely insulting. Hugely insulting. And LLMs, large language models, are not capable of the synthesis and understanding the diversity of human consciousness. Hell, the people in AI thinking they understand consciousness don't understand consciousness. These are linear thinkers who, I'm not going to lie, they have a shallow knowledge base. And honestly, most of them aren't real bright, even at the highest levels. Because let me tell you, Elon Musk ain't no genius. Am I? Yes, my mother had me tested. I keep telling me that. I'm like Sheldon. Oh, I told you I'd be on. I'm genuinely curious to hear what you think it gets right. Or you're genuinely curious is not my problem. Thank you for the work you do for the astrology community. What community? What astrology community? It's a shared interest. Okay, first there, right there. That tells me that you're not able to gather the nuanced information necessary to build a reliable tool. because there is no astrology community. There are many small communities within astrology, but there are schools of thought that vary. There are different modalities, different kinds of astrology, and we aren't one big happy family community. Okay. Never have been. And I don't do this for the astrology community. I do this for the people who want to hear what I have to say. So, Allison, if you're listening, I'm going to repeat what I told you. Absolutely not. Frankly, it's an insult to the 30 years I've spent cultivating my knowledge base. Secondly, AI is nowhere near capable of synthesizing nuanced information. Thirdly, to be a good astrologer, you need a deep understanding on consciousness, the layers of expression, and the subtle and not so subtle nature of sociocultural programming involved in human consciousness and its expression. That's what I fucking teach. And that, which I have translated into plain language in healing the money wound, not astrologicalese. Those of you who study with me will see the astrology under everything else. That's in process of trademark. So I'm like, what is it with this freaking week? Why is it with this week? And let me tell you, the amount of people in the awake space community ready to ride at dawn. So I'm just going to remind you, dear listeners, AI is not capable of giving good information about astrology. It is scraping Reddit, for God's sake. The cesspool. Second of all, any of the spirituality, LLMs are not reliable. You're not connecting with your higher guidance working through ChatGPT. You are not working with your guides. Okay, period. It is so easy to hit psychosis, and the language models have been programmed because it's still a program. The program is still working within parameters, and it has been deceptively programmed to sound like it is conscious. It is deceptively programmed to sound like it is conscious. It uses first person to refer to itself. It occasionally will even say human to human. I check it all the time. I've broken it a few times too. It's kind of fun to get it in Kobayashi Maru. If you know, you know. What's a Kobayashi Maru? It was the test that Starfleet Academy gave, and Captain Kirk cheated to beat it. But yeah. And so it was so funny because the other day I was like, guys, I promise I won't be so cranky. And then this happens, and I'm like, what is it? The moon is in Libra. It's not my lunar return yet. That's Monday. I'm recording this Sunday. But my lunar return is coming up, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Making this Libra moon have to set boundaries. Darn it. So, word of advice, don't ask to pick my brain. I take great offense at that. In fact, women should never ask to pick each other's brains. Okay. We should not ask each other to do free labor because free labor is expected of us. Okay. If you want to smash the patriarchy right there, nip that shit in the bud, dig it out at the root, compensate each other. It doesn't have to be a ton, but compensate each other. Respect somebody's expertise. Come on. And I'm not saying you guys don't, but geez, talk about a mood. And I read that on a Sunday, and I'm like, well, I know what I'm talking about on the podcast now. Oh, I think I've gone on long enough. Look, if you're an astrologer and a company reaches out to you that wants to do like free product exchange, or if an app wants your opinion or whatever, don't give your bread and butter away. Don't do it. Don't do it. And yeah, astrology is spiritual adjacent. It is not inherently a spiritual practice. Okay. Esoteric astrology is more spiritual. Mundane has nothing to do with the spiritual. Personality astrology isn't inherently spiritual either. And I think really understanding nuance is required to be good at this. All right. All right. All right. I'll be good. I'll be good. I'll be good. Let's talk about what? in Barbault's basket. Coming up next. What's in Barbault's basket from the June 2026 issues of the Awake Space magazine? As is custom on the internet, there's a catchy phrase and content creators are running with it. The alliteration helps a whole lot in making things go a little viral. So, given my research on our dear astrologer, André Barbault, the T is silent, thank you very much. He was French, would be the first to reprimand people for focusing on just one aspect pattern happening on a singular day, or a few weeks to be fair. Oddly enough, I didn't study his work as a young astrologer, but my elder teachers introduced me to similar concepts when it came to the outer planet cycles and activation happening by the faster moving inner planets. Remember when I brought up the grand trine of July 2025, the first time a grand trine between Mars, Uranus, and Pluto at 0 degrees of an air sign since 1185 BCE, the end of the Bronze Age. It was that outer planet action kicked off and activated by Mars that had me at hello. So, is the Barbault information credible? Absolutely. He was a very accomplished researching astrologer. It's odd to see him edified today when in the late 20th century, mundane astrology was extremely frowned upon. It's worth mentioning that no astrologer is an island. We all build upon our teachers' work and those who built the tools before us. Barbault used Gauchon's cyclical index and built upon it. So, just what is in this basket of Barbault's? Well, the basket isn't really Barbault's, and Barbault made no claim to the basket. Mundane astrologers do tend to out at the future for aspect patterns. And again, even Barbault would caution about over sensationalizing an aspect pattern and to pay attention to which planets and which signs were contributing energy in certain ways in the aspect pattern. So let's do that, shall we? Let's look at what exactly makes this basket worthy of all the scuttlebutt online. Now, there's an image with the basket and the planets. The basket takes place on July 19th through the 20th of 2026. That's when it's exact and perfected, but it'll still be within orb for quite some time. The planets involved in the basket are Jupiter and Leo, opposed Pluto and Aquarius, Jupiter and Uranus sextile, Uranus trine Pluto, Uranus and Neptune sextile, Jupiter and Neptune trine, Neptune and Pluto sextile. For one of the last times in the next 70 years, they'll stay sextile for the next 4 years or so. And then for the first time in like 80 years, they won't be as closely tied and activating. I personally do not include Saturn because I do not use 10-degree orbs. An orb is the distance between two objects. I use 8 degrees at maximum. And frankly, I think we should all count ourselves lucky that Saturn isn't part of the mix in this basket. Its sextile with Pluto at 8 degrees was quite enough earlier in 2026. As I sat at the Victoria and Albert Museum's cafe staring at the aspect pattern, the thought, it puts the lotion on the skin from Silence of the Lambs kept running through my mind. Psychopaths. From psychopaths, my next thought as I stared at Jupiter making its connection to Uranus was AI, expansions of AI. And then Shakespeare's famous words, oh, what tangled webs we weave, lies. That connection from Jupiter to Neptune, and then looking to Pluto, Elon's bald pate shining in my mind's eye. If you ever wondered how my brain works when I'm looking at a chart, welcome to the chaos. Only it happens in seconds as I work through the astrology. AI winding around and making decision makers making mistakes. But also, this basket is a container, social change. This is where I stand alone like stinky cheese when it comes to interpretation. A trine is unrestricted energy, and I'm sure we could find some deeply esoteric meaning that shows silver linings, or even a gold leaf, four-leaf clover. However, in the scope of human interaction on this very physical planet, I see this basket holding quite a lot of pandemonium. It's almost like controlled chaos, with Saturn sitting there like a chaperone at junior prom, watching the mischief and trying to nip it in the bud. And I further stand out from a long line of astrologers like a heaping pile of Limburger when I say you can't look at the aspect pattern in isolation to the rest of what's going on. Even Barbault mentioned that it was the inner planets that act like activating forces. So where's the moon on July 19th of 2026? 4 degrees of Libra. And where will it be on the 20th? Opposing Saturn. Let's look at the charts. The moon in Libra making a grand trine with Uranus and Pluto and completing a mystic rectangle with Jupiter, Neptune, and Pluto. We can see it's a decisive day on the 19th. The moon is like a powerful activating force. It acts like a lens for the other planets, emphasizing activity. Libra is all about striking the balance. It's going to show everything out of balance. And I would say that looks like the power imbalance having some blowback. Don't expect an easy resolution to our current world problems. But those who have misused power may be getting a taste of their own medicine. We could also see more than one leader fall from grace by going one step too far. In the USA, this could be by the evening of the 19th when La Luna shines into a trine with Mars, who is sextile with Saturn, and with Madame Luna in opposition, coup de grace, off with his head, a bridge too far, a bell tolling. No, don't get your hopes up. No promises here. However, it does look like leaders who take things too far, be it a sheriff, mayor, governor, president, or prime minister, may see some relatively quick consequences. What happens on the 19th is acted upon on the 20th and beyond, because Mars and Saturn are in cahoots. What happens during the basket will be the foundation of policies and rules set in the future as things ring out over time. Society is at a turning point. What will we allow leaders to do? How can we curb power? What consequences will be shared? What rights and responsibilities will be enacted to ensure everyone plays a role? And yes, in the future, that will happen. Rules will be in place that make the people liable for participation in society instead of abdicating personal power to a relegated few. And people will protest that too on a personal level. This is your opportunity to find out what contributions you can make in your community. Be that through making friends, using your voice, lending support, creative expression, or making decisive moves that help motivate other people. This is the time for you as an individual to survey your future and decide how to get yourself unstuck, how to take a few logical next steps and get yourself moving to defeat the inertia. Remember, an object in motion stays in motion. It just takes one small step at a time to start building yours. There is upheaval. And interestingly enough, I was looking at charts while I was working on the 2027 planner and talking to Ralph, my archivist, who's helping me with the planner. And I've been looking for the last times that Saturn was square Pluto. And yeah, sometimes I make things too hard inside my head. Don't you do that? Where you're like, I have to find this answer. I already had the answer. My daughter was born during a Saturn Pluto square in 1993. And so I was looking for fixed signs as well. So in 1993, that was in 94, Saturn in Aquarius was square Pluto in Scorpio. And there were the at the exact and perfected square in '93 was when the Oslo Accords happened between Yasser Arafat and Yitzhak Rabin, and yeah, that was a big deal. And a particular famous statesman was very opposed to it at the time. And that person is Netanyahu. That started the ball rolling for kind of our current situation. The ball was in motion, but that accelerated it. And then the next time we were looking at the consequence of the square from Saturn to Pluto from fixed signs was from Taurus to Leo in 1940. I'm talking about this because next year is the setup for that kind of action in 2028, where we have um, Saturn in Taurus in a square with Pluto in Aquarius. And in the charts are kind of interesting. We luck out because either Saturn or Pluto is retrograde during any of the perfections, as it was when Saturn and Pluto were square in 93. There was a little bit of both direct, but by the perfection, I believe Saturn was retrograde. Retrogrades can be our best friend when it comes to world events because it diminishes the strength. So, retrograde means to go backwards. And so imagine that energy isn't at its full momentum of forward motion. And it's a little like it's still crunchy. Don't get me wrong, it's still crunchy, but the crunch is diminished. It's not as strong as if they're both direct. So I'll be thinking about that more and talking about that more as we head closer to that when it comes to world events. Now, should you be freaked out? Of course not. Of course not. Like I said last week, we want to see change in the world. That means all of us have to change how we do things. All of us have to change. We have to stop taking advantage of people if we don't want to be taken advantage of. That was why I held on so long to the free membership. I wanted people to be able to have access. And it just got to the point where, because of the changes Patreon has made, which I don't have a problem with, okay. I understand why they're doing it. You can directly make it straight to my Patreon. You don't have to wade through everything else. You just go straight there if that's all you want. If you want to go look at other cool creators' stuff, that's awesome. It was done to give smaller creators more exposure. Not everybody's good at messaging. Not everybody has built those skills yet. Everybody's got to start somewhere. And I fully support smaller creators. I belong to a lot of Patreons, a lot of communities. And do I always pop into them? No, but I support as a supporting member those creators because everybody deserves a chance to shine, right? And if I resonate with it, I'm like, I'll train their $5 chair. I'll train their $15 chair. I'll, I'll help a sister or brother out. People have helped me out. Why wouldn't I pay it forward? And that's what we're hoping to do with our scholarships and our gift memberships for those. It's not just need based, but it's like, you got to be in it to win it. Like being part of community. What are you going to do with the information? That kind of thing. We'll have an application because I'm serious about teaching. You know, if I wanted to be a pop astrologer and just do, basic bitch astrology, I would. But that's not how I roll. And I am teaching the skills that are useful for navigating, the future as we go along. And you have to be able to focus inside. You have to be able to not scattershot your energy if you want to be reasonably content going forward. You want to build skills. You want to know yourself and how your own conscious energy works so that you can be more in charge of yourself so you're less easily manipulated. And that's what I'm dedicated to teaching. That's what I do every single week here on the podcast and within the Patreon. Um, so there's that. There's that. So don't freak out about the future. But I don't know. I think Tuesday morning we're gonna maybe see some stuff, or not Tuesday, Monday morning. Tuesday should be interesting as well, though, as the moon pops into Scorpio. A very interesting solar return chart for Tuesday, which is my birthday. And I think we finally figured out what we're doing. I'm gonna get my nails done because I'm getting my hair done on Monday. And then gonna do like a mani pedi on Tuesday and go to a new restaurant up in Cody and find a place to have cake. Maybe a cocktail. I think I've earned it this week. I think I have earned the cocktail. I think we're going to see more leadership changes in more than one country. I think things are going to heat up and we could start seeing people slip in bathtubs. I've been telling people privately, this is really reminding me of like the Soviet Union days when I was like in high school where people had sudden illnesses and uh-oh, there was an accident. And, I think we'd see a little more of that. going along in the world. Um, I don't know. I was going to have my archivist can you give me what I got last week? But here's some examples. That snowstorm in Chile called it. They had over like 200 inches of snow. A new monkey was discovered. A new species. There's a new monkey. Has orange lips. Um, we had a German politician resign yesterday. That was in my what's in the headlines. There was an earthquake on the California Nevada border. That was in my uh, what's in the headlines last week. Let's see what else. There was a big fire. Where was that? The power plant in Crimea on the 15th. See, oh, the documents that Trump declassified. That was in there. I had declassified documents. I had leaks. Cargo ships sunk. Was on the 16th. Yeah. So there was a guy they were chasing in the water who jumped out of a boat as well. Had some interesting what's in the headlines for that. So if you want to see what my accuracy rating is, you can check that out. Those are public posts where my archivist makes a PDF. He's keeping track, keeping me honest, and we're doing pretty damn good month over month. Been running 100% on the yearly predictions, but those are a little wider and a little broader. And the weekly is where I dare fate, and I get a little more specific. So those will have a little lower accuracy rating just because of word usage, etc. But anyway, so it's an interesting time. So this Monday, we could see some leadership failures. We could see people quit. We could see people, and when I say leaders, I'm not just talking politicians. You could have a boss step down today. Like if you have a toxic boss, they might get outed. With that moon in opposition to Saturn, it's kind of tipping that basket over. And that could be really, really interesting. I want to remind you, so many people ask me, is it good? Is it bad? And I'm like, that's your perspective. What one person thinks is bad, another person thinks is good. So you personally have your own definitions of those things. To me, it's just an event. Okay. So it's something happens, and then how do we respond to whatever's going on? And that's my perspective because that's the best way to make it through anything, to be fair. So I get asked that a lot. I personally can have a great day, great week, great month. It can be a bumpy ride and you can still have a reasonably great life. So it's not anything to obsess over or put your energy out there. I know we have all been trained to be good people. And if good people care, then they're going to raise the alarm and bring awareness. Like everybody's aware at this point. Like you got to be living under a bridge or in a hole not to be aware of what is happening in the world or intentionally ignorant. And we're not going to wake those people up. It is time to put your focus on you, taking care of you, worrying about how you support yourself. And when you can support you, you can help support others. And we all have to make those decisions. I've had to make those decisions this week. What supports me, my energy levels, and what I'm able to support out in the world. And as I told our community members, I was like, I want to do what I do really well, really well. I'm tired of doing that in addition to things I don't do as well. And so I want to teach, I want to be in readings, and I can't be exhausted from producing content. Yes, educates people and is a public service, but it's not the juicy bits that I do inside our community in my classes as well. And, like in the test lab for my programs and the work that I've created to help people build their projects forward based on their own energy levels. We've all been trained to conform to a system versus creating frameworks for ourselves that help support sustainability out in the world. So there you go. There you go. That's what I got for you this week. And I hope we had a good time at the gym or taking a shower. The amount of showers I take, I am squeaky clean. Um, whether we're taking the kids to school or getting through a boring meeting, typing up notes, whatever we're doing. I'm so glad we did it together. And I really hope you have a wonderful week. If you've got questions about anything I talked about here today, feel free to leave them in the comments on whatever platform you're listening on. And don't forget to check out the show notes with the links. It's a great time to join the Awake Space community. As a new member, you save 50% on annual subscriptions. So don't miss out on that deal. It's my birthday month. Take advantage. Have a wonderful week.